Welcome to the 2014 State of the County Address. I'm Stephanie Helton. I'm the Director of Marketing Communications and Foundation at St. Joseph Mercy Hospital. I'm also the Chair of the Public Affairs Committee with the Blue Water Chamber, and on behalf of that committee, I want to welcome each and every one of you to today's exciting event. Thank you all for coming. We have over 300 people here today, which is a testament to the Chamber's work and the work of the Public Affairs Committee with regard to this event. That's increased 100 attendees since last year. So thank you very much for coming. First, I would like to take an opportunity to thank all of our sponsors who have contributed to the event, and I would especially like to thank our presentation sponsors. The Hampton Inn by Hilton in Port Huron awaits you with many amenities designed specifically to meet your needs. When it comes to best services, treat yourself and be a guest. The Hampton Inn has been recognized year after year by Hilton as a quality service property. The Hampton Inn focuses on service excellence. Guest satisfaction is the #1 goal. They go above and beyond to ensure guests are getting the best experience possible. The Hampton Inn offers an array of amenities, including a complimentary hot deluxe breakfast, complimentary high-speed internet access, and free 24-hour beverage station. The newly renovated rooms are equipped with a flat-screen television, refrigerator, clean and fresh beds, all designed to provide you with a good night's rest. As a leading hotel franchise for corporate businesses, the Hampton Inn accommodates corporate guests by providing negotiated corporate rates, special discounts for group bookings and conferences. Take advantage of the Hampton Inn by Hilton. We also want to thank our other presentation sponsor, AT&T. AT&T is investing in Michigan and in St. Clair County. In fact, AT&T has invested more than $1.7 billion in Michigan over the last 3 years toward improving, enhancing, and expanding the communication services we all use and rely on every day. That's billions with a B. A lot of this investment is going into high-speed, high-tech wireless and IP networks that more and more businesses, schools, law enforcement, and homeowners here in St. Clair County are embracing. You will hear today about the efforts on a county level to provide quality services to residents. AT&T is investing here to do the exact same thing. AT&T is also investing in people. Yes, they are hiring. They are creating jobs and offering good opportunities for people looking for a challenge and a great place to work. As AT&T looks back on more than 130 years of history serving Michigan customers, they are also looking ahead to where technology is going, what innovations are coming next, and how they can bring the best and most reliable communication services to organizations, businesses, and families in St. Clair County. Thank you again to our two presentation sponsors. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mayor Dan Damon, who will provide a warm welcome from the City of Marysville. Dan?
Thank you very much and good morning. I had promised that I would be brief this morning, and although brevity is not my strong point, I will do my very best. I would also like to thank everyone for coming to this event and welcome you back to the City of Marysville for the 8th Annual Blue Water Chamber of Commerce State of the County Address. I'm thankful to the Chamber that it has once again chosen Alexander's to host this event. I hope that everybody has enjoyed lunch, and maybe a brief round of applause for Alex and Kristen. They put on a phenomenal display here. Thank you all for taking the time out of your schedule to join us here today. Your attendance is a demonstration of your continued interest and commitment to St. Clair County. We do have some special guests with us this afternoon. These are special guests of AT&T that I would ask that they stand and be recognized. We have Senator Phil Pavlo, State Representative Dan Lowers, State Representative Andre Lafontaine, and State Representative Paul Muxlow. There are many other elected officials present with us here today, and you have chosen to dedicate at least a part of your life to public service. You have chosen to commit your time and your talents in an effort to better your community, however far-reaching that community may be. And for that, I would ask all elected officials to stand and be recognized. That's it. I told you I'd be brief. Thank you once again for coming, and thank you again to the Chamber for having this event in the city of Marysville. And I'm going to turn it back over to Stephanie. Please enjoy the rest of the presentation.
So, you know, we try very hard every year to stay very close to our schedule. So we're going to move right in. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Bill Kauffman. Bill is the county administrator and controller for St. Clair County. He began his career with the county in 1990. Most of that time he was spent working in the county planning office. He has been the administrative controller for more than 3 years. Prior to that, he served as the director of the Metropolitan Planning Commission for 7 years. That's where I got to know him. In his current position, Bill advises the Board of Commissioners on a variety of policy and financial matters, including the county's waste and energy systems. Bill earned a master's and bachelor's degree from Northern Michigan University. His studies included resource planning and public administration. Please join me in welcoming Bill as he outlines the state of St. Clair County.
Thank you, Stephanie. I want to thank the Chamber, Lori and AT&T and the Hampton Inn, as well as all of the other sponsors of today's event. Also want to thank Mayor Damon and the City of Marysville for hosting today's event as well. On the table in front of you today is something that those of you that have attended these events in the past are used to seeing, and it's the county's annual report card. First, I want to thank the Planning Commission for putting this together and everyone who assisted them, the community college, the EDA, and certainly SEMCOG, who provided a lot of the information that you see in here. Just as a quick reminder, I'm not going to go through this information. Hopefully you'll take this back with you, and at some point over the weekend, while you're sitting in the armchair enjoying the weekend, is take a look at this. If you look at the legend, I just want to point out to you that green means good, red is bad, and yellow is stable. So whether the arrow is up or down, up could mean good, it could mean bad, but just watch for the green and the red. Take a look at this. If you have any questions about the data in it, or you'd like more detail behind some of this, feel free to contact the planning department, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to share information with you. So here's what we're going to talk about today. And overall, I'm pleased to tell you that we had a good year. Things are improving, and we expect to see more of the same. However, getting here wasn't an easy task. Prior to 2009, all of us were, let's say, fat, dumb, and happy. We were operating in silos, we had plenty of money, and we were very protective of our own turf. When we had a tough issue, we could very easily look at our state legislators, take a look at federal government, and there always seemed to be some money there to help us deal with something that happened to come up. Well, in 2009, those funds started drying up, and all of a sudden, everyone had to learn how to cooperate with one another. At the county, we had to become creative and innovative. We had to learn how to focus our efforts and seek out partnerships. You know, being creative can be scary. It's inherently risky, and risk isn't something that government does very well. We knew something different had to be done. And if we wanted, especially if we wanted to avoid the trends that were surfacing in government at that time. We've all read the news. These are the trends we see in government across the country at the local as well as at the national level. Some governmental units aren't balancing their budgets. Some aren't building or stabilizing their fund balances. Some are increasing taxes. Some are not addressing unfunded liabilities. For Michigan counties, the average funding level for post-employment benefits is 11%. The national average for government pension funding is only 73%. While we've certainly fared much better than others, we had our challenges as well. Our revenues have declined significantly. During the past 6 years, total general fund revenues have shrunk from $62 million to $54 million. This decline in income has impacted the county's ability to do business, which is delivering services. We had to figure out how to be less dependent on property taxes and other revenues, yet still deliver the services that the communities expect of the county, that all of you expect of the county. That certainly was not an easy task. Here we can clearly see the change in income and expenses over the last few years. This is what the county had to work with. We had to ensure that expenses did not exceed revenues. You can see that we put a little bit of money aside or in the bank every year. Not a lot, but enough to demonstrate fiscal restraint. That restraint contributed to a stable financial picture and instilled trust in those that we asked to invest in our community. While few like to pay taxes, we believe that if you can demonstrate that it is used wisely and returns on those expenditures are apparent, then writing that check to the tax man isn't quite as traumatic. In spite of our economy taking a nosedive, the bond rating agencies, those who are key to selling investors on our community, expressed confidence in this community. As a result of solid fiscal policy and discipline, we've improved or maintained our bond ratings. Keep in mind that improved and stable ratings are not just a result of action by the county. It's a reflection of the bond analysts' view of our entire community. Employment, output, workforce, construction, household incomes, and private sector investments in our community. Our combined actions, all of your actions, combined and are reflected in these ratings. In 2009, Standard & Poor's upgraded us from a AA- to a solid AA. Fitch upgraded us from an A in 2010 to a AA- in 2011. Certainly, we'd love to be a AAA, but given what's going on in our economy, we're happy with these results. The county used this news and a low municipal interest rate to refinance several bonds, about $5.4 million in debt. We refinanced those bonds, and over the life of the bond, we are expected to receive a savings of $1.75 million. That's a direct reflection of the improved status of our community. So in spite of declining revenues, how has the county been able to pay its bills, improve its financial position and bond ratings, while still providing a wide range of quality services? Well, the same way that all of you do. We focused our efforts. We look closely at what we do now and how we do it. We became creative. We also encouraged creativity and innovation. We actually did something. We didn't study it to death. We stuck to it. We evaluated our progress, and we made adjustments based on the outcomes that were being attained. We did not keep doing the same thing the same way. We just took a little risk and tried something different. We made very calculated, deliberate, and well thought out moves. We adopted a simple process, a continuous and ever evolving process. If I were sitting where you are today, I'd probably be thinking to myself, so what exactly was it that you did? Show me what the county did differently. Well, before we do that, I'd like to share with you what the board's goals have been over the last couple of years. Fiscal stewardship has been very important to the Board of Commissioners. That means multi-year budgeting, tightening internal controls, and capital investment planning. Economic development is another one of their goals. That included things like revitalizing our downtowns, supporting and continued involvement in the EDA, and building strong, open partnerships in the community. Improving quality of life is key to the board as well. They've done that through parks investments and continuing to improve the quality as well as access to the water that we all enjoy. We invested in county infrastructure as a goal. You've heard a lot over the last couple of years about investments in the airport, in roads, and in waste disposal. These goals are visited annually by the Board of Commissioners. We evaluate them, we make adjustments to the goals, and strategies used to attain them. Perhaps the most important decisions that the board has made in this process is to trust their department heads and a willingness to take calculated risks. Now, before we go any further, I want to make it clear that both department heads and the board realize that they are using your money. Putting tax dollars at risk isn't something that the county takes lightly. We kick around ideas. We study what others have done right and what they've done not so right. We run the numbers, we consider alternatives, and if it's appropriate, we'll bring in the experts. Only then do we ask the Board of Commissioners for their approval. Let's look at a few examples of what has been done. Let's start with what a few departments have done. Private sector develops business plans. You develop corporate goals, you plan out your moves, and you evaluate those moves. Well, St. Clair County government does the same thing. Here are a few departments that have engaged in that process. By no means the only departments that have done so. The evaluation of the juvenile justice system began with the construction of the new juvenile center. Goals that resulted from this evaluation included maximizing the ability to treat young offenders in the county instead of placing them elsewhere. Also, to achieve behavioral changes and ensure that juveniles continued their education. Results that have been realized include a significant drop in repeat juvenile offenders, kids completing high school, and some even going on to college. A youth rehabilitation program was established here that is visited by many other communities across the nation. They realize that we have created something here that is a more effective way of dealing with troubled youth. In 2013, the juvenile court administrators, Amy DeLange and Gary Rutowski, and the judiciary, Judge Kelly and Judge Brown, made additional changes to this program. Their new goal was a stronger engagement of families, exposing more youth offenders to an effective and proven program. reducing the number of incarcerated youth, and increasing the number in an intensive treatment program. The program is designed to change the lives of youth and their families, as well as save money. It was implemented in September, and these changes are expected to reduce program and treatment costs by more than $1 million annually. This week, we've already begun to see the results of this program. 6 young adults were awarded their high school diplomas and GEDs during a graduation ceremony on Wednesday. All 6 of those graduates are now enrolled in college. Name me a school, a high school, in the state of Michigan where 100% of their graduates end up enrolling in college. I, for one, think that this innovative and perhaps risky program is off to a really great start. Let me give you another example of a department that is doing things differently. This time from the clerk's office, Jay DeBoyer. Most of us has performed jury duty. Managing jury duty is a very time-consuming and costly process. One full-time employee is devoted entirely to managing the system. The county spends conservatively $30,000 annually for juror mailings, questionnaires, notices, and the like. Jurors had to commit 30 days of service, which I'm sure most of you that have served were not real happy about. Mr. DeBoyer needed to find a new way of managing the program. In 2013, a new approach was developed, and that will be implemented this year. Staff time needed to manage the program will be reduced, and through attrition, staffing levels in the office will be dropped as well. Jurors will only be required to commit to a service period of 2 weeks, and jury service pay will be made through PayPal. These changes will result in an annual savings in excess of $100,000. And this is just one example of the creative approach that the clerk is taking to service delivery. He has many other examples that have shown similar results. The health departments and the library are both in various stages of developing and implementing their own strategic plans. An evaluation of the landfill, along with implementation of new practices, has resulted in a business plan that is amended annually. It resulted in a 15% reduction in operating costs. And our post-closure or long-term maintenance liability has been reduced by $4 million. These are all examples of department heads that are evaluating the way they used to deliver service and developing a more effective approach. Each presented some risk, but it was a calculated risk. Let's take a look at a few things that the board has done to cope with reduced revenues in an environment of increasing service demands. The board sets an example with the actions that they take to meet service needs with fewer dollars available to do so. One of their primary goals is balancing the budget each year. The board sets a direction and they set a tone that others follow. 2 years ago, the board introduced a tool that encouraged departments to find new ways of delivering services. Internally, we call it the Budget Incentive Program. The initiative encouraged well-conceived approaches to less costly service delivery. At the end of a fiscal year, departments were able to retain a portion of their unspent allocation in support of permanent structural change. This is typically in the form of an investment in technology that creates some of these structural efficiencies. Maintaining or growing the county's fund balance has been front and center in the board's budget decisions. As has been mentioned in the past, during the recent downturns in our economy, the board has never dipped into their fund balance. Instead, the board is working towards meeting fund balance standards of the Government Finance Officers Association. These include maintaining 15 to 20% of the general fund budget on hand to meet cash flow needs. In 2008, we were at 13%. In 2012, that had been grown to 17%. Certainly maintaining core services is a priority of the board as well. In 2008, the public safety portion of the budget was funded at $20 million. This year, public safety has been allocated nearly $22 million. County match dollars committed to the local and county road system were set at $700,000 in 2008, and in 2014, that match has grown to $900,000. For the past 4 years, the Board of Commissioners have been aggressively addressing unfunded liabilities. These are things like pensions and retirement health care. Many existing and all new employees no longer receive a defined benefit pension plan. The board has been increasing their annual allocation to the pension fund. Our most recent actuarial report on the pension system found that the program was funded at 81%, well above the national average of 73%. Retirement health care liabilities continue to be chipped away at. The county has increased their contribution to the retirement health care fund. Benefit changes have been made, reducing program costs as well. At the present time, our post-employment benefits are funded at more than twice the average of Michigan counties. In fact, changes implemented by the county to retirement health care have resulted in a 50% reduction in unfunded liabilities. We all know that we can accomplish more if we work together. Leveraging partnerships is a big focus of the board. This strategy has enabled the community and all of its organizations to move this county forward much faster than if we tried to do it independently. The EDA remains a strong partner and advocate for the county and the community. Blue Meets Green brings together a broad spectrum of community leaders, and the county board chair, Jeff Bohm, shares the chairperson position. This group has focused its efforts, orchestrating positive change within our community. The past few years, the county has worked quite extensively with nonprofit organizations. The most recent example of that is on the Riverwalk project on Desmond Landing. The Community Foundation, Atchison Ventures, and the County Parks and Recreation Commission partnered to rehabilitate the shoreline and improve public access. The county's most visible private sector partnership has been with the Doubletree, Baker College, and Freighters. The purpose of this partnership was to use public investment to leverage millions of dollars in private investment. Also, to reopen a key destination hotel, attracting new visitors to the community, and certainly providing an opportunity to retain regional youth through the Culinary Institute of Michigan has been a benefit of this effort. Let's take a moment and talk a bit about the convention center. Entering into a partnership that results in the construction of a convention facility is an example of a calculated decision by the Board of Commissioners. The inn would have been closed with a loss of 200 plus jobs. Just imagine that facility where it's located with plywood boarded over the windows. That's where it was headed. Without this partnership, that's where we would be today. Instead, over $20 million of private dollars have been invested in our community. 200 plus jobs have been retained, and created. And many of those that used to work at the inn are currently employed by the DoubleTree. Baker has created a world-class culinary program. And we have visitors that had stopped coming to our community now returning to enjoy the facility. Through the partnership with the City of Port Huron, we've hired the nation's largest venue management company to market, book, and operate the facility. Estimated annual attendance at the convention center during the first 4 years of operation ranged from 47,000 to 58,000. The management company believes that we'll be able to have a group in that facility nearly every day of the year. I've heard many rumors, and I hear probably most all of them, on why it appears as though nothing has been occurring on the site of the convention center. Let me share some facts with you. The project was envisioned in 2011. Serious planning began in 2012. Initially, the intent was for all of the partners to move in unison, but things changed. As the development plans evolved, Baker joined in, and the vision for all partners began to mature. Every partner had unique goals and expectations. The private sector needed to move quickly. They had an obligation to their investors. Baker had students enrolling in a new program, and they needed to get them into their kitchens. So the county stepped back, took a breath, and enabled others to move forward. After all, the intent of this effort was to stimulate private investment. So let's let them complete their work and begin their operations. The county is proceeding, but in a very deliberate fashion. We want to make sure that we follow the advice of our consultants and that we make all the right moves. The ballroom was bid in May of 2013, and unfortunately, we had 0 responses to that request for bids. Rather than just going out on the street and selecting contractors to do the work, we decided to rebid the ballroom. And in the fall of last year, we cast a little wider net, and this time we received 9 very competitive proposals. The contracts for the ballroom were awarded, and the work is, for the most part, completed. The bids for new construction, which is what you see here, were let in December. Because some trades received either 0 bids or only 1 bid, we decided to rebid 13 categories. Again, we reached further out in the state to secure contractors. The result of rebidding was considerably more interest and reduced bids on those items that we had received a bid for. We saved a very significant amount of money by rebidding. Currently, we are preparing recommendations on contract awards that we expect to go to the board very shortly. So, when will we break ground? Well, right now we've got 6 feet of frost in the ground, and temperatures continue to drop below freezing, so it could be a while. When the weather conditions permit and the ground thaws out, we'll be up there and we'll be at work. I'm often asked when we plan to open, and my response has always been consistent. We will open when it is completed and when it is completed correctly. We've taken very deliberate steps. We've acted when appropriate, and we've paused when it's been needed. We recognize that we are responsible to each of you, and we must make this a success. The big question I get every day about the convention center, even from the commissioners, is, are we on budget? Are we on budget? Well, as a matter of fact, we are on budget. Innovation isn't all about balancing the budget. Some innovation has led to wonderful opportunities for us and our families to play. The Parks Millage is a perfect example. Sharing a county millage with local communities was unheard of until St. Clair County did it. The results has been the creation of a local and county park system that is hard to beat. The millage also provided us with the funds that are necessary to partner on projects like the Riverwalk. Another innovative project the county has gotten involved with the last few years is aimed at capitalizing on our water resources, the Blue Ways Project, the first comprehensive effort to establish a county-wide water trail system in the state of Michigan. We are now working to connect businesses with those that are using the water and the trail systems, ensuring that businesses can take advantage of the opportunities to connect with the users. Last year, the county received recognition by the National Park Service for our unique water resources and the accessibility that we've provided to it. The National Water Trail designation is the first in the state of Michigan. And in fact, there have only been 14 such designations made nationwide. Each of these initiatives were conceived of and carried out by county employees and volunteers that sit on various boards and commissions. Innovative thinking and action that improves our quality of life. As we move forward, you can expect that the county will continue to live within its means, yet provide the quality of service that is expected. We will expand our efforts to evaluate what we do, how we do it, and implement change. Quality service will become a driver in the years to come. The county will continue to evaluate opportunities and take well-thought-out steps that will help improve service delivery and our ability to enjoy the place we've all decided to live and raise our families. Finally, we'll continue to evaluate opportunities that will encourage private sector investments. Next year, I'd like to get back together with you and talk a little bit about what we have done. And I, for one, believe that we're going to have an awful lot to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. We'll have time for questions and answers at the end of the next section. At this time, I'd like to introduce Kathleen Lomako. Kathleen was recently appointed Executive Director of the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. She has been with SEMCOG serving in a variety of capacities since 1978. In 1998, she was named Deputy Executive Director. As this is Women's History Month, I think it's relevant to point out that Kathleen is the first woman to be appointed to the position of Executive Director and is only the sixth lead administrator since SEMCOG was formed in 1968. With extensive degrees in urban planning from Wayne State University, Kathleen has attended special training programs for senior executives in state and local government and is a certified association executive. SEMCOG is a regional planning partnership of more than 160 member local governments and the designated metropolitan planning organization for transportation planning and decision-making in the 7-county Southeast Michigan region. Welcome, Kathleen, as she outlines SEMCOG's forecast for St. Clair County.
Thanks, Stephanie, and thanks to all of you for coming to today's event and hear a little bit about what our forecast for the future is. As Stephanie mentioned, we're an organization of 7 counties. St. Clair County is the northernmost county in our region, and as an organization of local governments, we deal with planning for transportation, water, air quality, and community and economic development. Our organization is governed by elected officials from our members, and we have a number of elected officials that serve on our governing board here today, and I want to thank them for their participation in our organization, because we're a regional partnership and we rely on the participation of our member governments. My presentation today is going to focus on the current conditions in Southeast Michigan, a forecast for the future of our region, and within that context, I'm going to dive a little deeper on what are some of the specifics we can expect in St. Clair County. I'm sure it's not a surprise to many of you that with the Blue Water Bridge as among the busiest international crossings for trucks between Ontario and Michigan, that St. Clair County is a crucial link connecting the United States and Canada. The commuting patterns in St. Clair County link you to the rest of the SEMCOG region. More than 15,000 St. Clair County residents commute to Macomb County alone. Over 3,000 people commute to Oakland County and Wayne County each, and less than 2,500 commute to any other place outside the SEMCOG region. Let's now start to focus on the conditions in our region. We're rebounding from a decade-long deep recession, as these regional and local headlines attest. And as this graph illustrates, our region's employment is growing faster than the rest of the U.S. Growth is a little slower in St. Clair County. Another way to illustrate employment growth is to show the declining unemployment rate. Here you can see that unemployment spiked at the height of the recession in 2009, but since then has been dropping in the nation, in our region, and in St. Clair County. After a decade of population decline, in the last 2 years we've begun to see small population gains. Much of the growth in the region is due to positive natural increase. By that, more births than deaths. However, natural increase is on the decline, and the rate of decline is expected to increase. If you'll recall, recently, the baby boom generation just started to reach the age of 62. As baby boomers age, natural increase is expected to further decline. The region continues to lose population to outmigration. That is, people moving out of our region. Now, however, net outmigration has slowed down significantly. In 2008, our region lost 60,000 people in just 1 year. In 2000, that number was down to less than 6,000. For the region to continue to grow in the future, migration will be a driving factor. For net migration to become positive, the region's job market has to become more competitive compared to the rest of the nation. It needs to be attractive for people to move here from other parts of the country and world. Now let's take a look at what we forecast for the future. Let's begin by discussing an important positive aspect of the forecast. That is per capita GDP, or average gross domestic product per person in our region. In the 1990s, the region's economy was booming, led by a domestic auto industry. As a result, GDP per capita grew at 2.8% annually. But the following decade-long one-state recession in Michigan resulted in long and significant declines in per capita GDP. We lost a little over 0.5% annually on average from 2000 to 2010. SEMCOG's forecast predicts a very healthy growth in GDP for the next decade, 3.2% per year as we recover from the recession. Then the growth will slow down for the following 2 decades, averaging just under 2% per year. Productivity, employment levels, and population changes all affect changes in GDP per capita. Let's look at the employment and population changes. We begin by looking at the long-term perspectives of our region's total employment changes. In the robust 90s, the region's employment grew significantly from 357,000, or almost 15%. We lost pretty much all of that in the following decade. In fact, the first decade of the 21st century, we lost 350,000 jobs, more than 12%. Since 2010, the region is now adding jobs. The recovery, however, will take a long time. Employment will grow by 300,000, or 12%, in the 30 years. We will only return to the nearly 2,000 level of jobs by 2040. How we are doing depends in large part on where we start our analysis. If we only go back to 2010, it's all up. If we go back further, we certainly see a different story. Now, I'd like to turn to the various sectors of our economy. Manufacturing lost more than half of its employment in the last decade. It is rebounding somewhat right now due to increased demand in motor vehicles. In the long run, we do not expect the manufacturing sector to add jobs because of increasing productivity and the globalization of the auto industry. We see growth in knowledge-based and export-oriented industries, which include professional and technical services, information services, finance, and management of companies. Many of the jobs in these sectors are related to our automotive industry. We are clearly not suggesting running away from our core automotive industry, but rather leveraging our key strength by focusing on innovation and export that requires education and advanced skills. They are also high-paying jobs. Therefore, although we do not forecast fast growth in the number of these jobs, we can expect to be more prosperous because these jobs do pay more. The healthcare industry will see the largest employment gains, 142,000, or 45%, in the 2010 through 2040 period, largely driven by the increasing demands of an aging population. There will be fewer retail jobs, mainly because of efficiencies in stores and online shopping. The flattest line on this chart is government employment. The nation's economic structure is changing, and so is the region's economy. In the last 2 decades, we've witnessed the decline in manufacturing employment and the rising importance of knowledge-based jobs. Our region had a greater loss of manufacturing jobs in terms of percentage and is lacking in the knowledge-based job growth. Switching to population, know that population follows employment with a few years lags. Unfortunately, employment growth in this decade will not be fast enough for us to maintain the same level of population in our region. By 2040, the region's population will be slightly higher than what it was in 2010, about 1% higher, in fact. But we will still be about 100,000 fewer than in the year 2000. Migration will make the region more diversified. The percentage of Hispanic population will double from 4 to 8%. The percentage of other race, much of these people being Asian, will almost double, growing from 6 to 11%. White population will decrease from 68% to 60%, and black population will remain relatively unchanged at about 22%. Are we going to see more ethnic stores? All of these images on the slide are from our region: Mexican town in Detroit, Chinese restaurants in Ann Arbor, an Arab bakery in Dearborn, a Polish cafe in Hamtramck. We have a lot of these already, and we're likely to see more as our region's population becomes more diverse. Population will decrease for almost all age categories younger than age 65, as shown in yellow, a loss of about 486,000. On the other hand, senior population, that is people age 65 and older, will increase by more than 500,000, or 85%. This will significantly change the services that we need to provide to our citizens, whether it be housing, health care, transportation, or any other goods and services. The population is aging region-wide. In 2010, most communities had 15% or less in terms of senior population. By 2040, most communities will have more than 20% senior citizens. The regional average will be 24%. As a reference, the state of Florida, which is known for its larger share of seniors, has a senior population of 17% today. With fewer children and more seniors, household size will continue to decrease. This is not a new issue. Back in 1960, there were 3.5 people in each household on average. Now it's 2.5. We are missing 1 person in each household. Household size will continue to decline somewhat into the future. This means that although we're not seeing large population growth, only about 1% over the 30-year period, we're going to see a greater increase in the number of households, that being about 6%. Thus, we will still need additional housing. But what will the types of housing that will be demanded? Our demographic changes will mean that there may be different types of housing required to serve an elderly population. Growth will be modest even when comparing it to our own recent past. This map shows the annual average household change by community from 1990 to 2010. Several communities experienced relatively large growth of more than 300 households per year during that time. In the next 30 years, we can see clearly from this 3D map the growth will be much slower. While we do need to work hard to make our region more attractive to both people and jobs, our region's success should not be measured merely by the amount of growth. Here again is our baseline forecast of employment, what we describe as the most likely scenario. Despite the restructuring of the domestic auto industry and massive losses of production jobs in recent years, the concentration of motor vehicle manufacturing employment in our region did not decline. It is still 7 to 8 times more concentrated in our region than the country as a whole. What if this were to change? Our lower alternative forecast has motor vehicle and parts manufacturing production jobs concentration in the region declining to only 3 or 4 times more than the U.S. average. Auto jobs end up at about half the baseline number. Because of the multiplying effects, the total job loss would be an additional 113,000, or 4% less than the baseline forecast by 2040. But let's look at a more positive alternative scenario. Pittsburgh has been viewed by many people as a good example of a transforming economy from manufacturing to a knowledge base. If our region were to grow at a similar rate over the next 30 years, the region's employment would be about 5% higher than the baseline forecast. In this scenario, the region will recover all the job lost since 2000 by 2030 rather than 2040. And as we look at this, we think we're trending to the higher end of the alternative forecast as opposed to the lower end. With all this as a regional context, let's now look at what it means for St. Clair County. Comparing St. Clair County's employment by industry to the region, the county has a higher concentration of manufacturing jobs, over 16% compared to 12% for the region. On the other hand, the county has much less of the so-called knowledge-based export-oriented jobs, less than 8% compared to the regional figure of 18%. The top employers in St. Clair County are mostly in healthcare and manufacturing. This slide highlights a few, and I noticed a few of these companies were here today. Looking at employment change by industry before and after the Great Recession, manufacturing declined sharply but rebounded well after the recession. Most other industries in St. Clair County are relatively flat. Government and retail continue to decline. Construction rebounded slightly, and knowledge-based jobs remain low. The county's economy will transform. Manufacturing is rebounding right now, due in part to the increased demand for motor vehicles. In the long run, like the region, we do not expect the manufacturing sector to add jobs. The reasons I mentioned earlier is the continued productivity gains in globalization. While there will be fewer retail jobs, mainly because of increased efficiency in online shopping, our hope is that the knowledge-based and export-oriented industries, which will not only replace some of the lost manufacturing jobs, but also increase prosperity of the regions and improve quality of life. The biggest gains will continue to be in healthcare, driven by increasing demand by our aging population. There will be little change in government jobs. Overall, from 2010 to 2040, St. Clair County will add about 4,500 people, or increase your population by 2.8%, and add 8,800 jobs, which is about 14.2%. When we compare the trends from the last decade to the 30-year forecast, the trends are all positive. As households continue to become smaller, the number of households will grow faster than population. The only households that will grow are those that are over age 65. A full 38% of the households will be headed by a person 65 years of age or older in 2040. That compares to a figure in St. Clair County of 23% in 2010. To summarize, we've made a good start to recover from the long and deep recession, but we are not nearly where we want to be. The recovery will take a long time. Growth will be modest over the next 30 years. Employment will be up by 12%, population by 1%, and households up by 6% due to that smaller household size. Quality is more important than quantity. We need to continue to diversify our economy by developing knowledge-based and export-oriented business. We still need to maintain a strong presence in our key automotive industry. An aging and more diversified population will require that we reconfigure the goods and services we provide, and will require that we demand different types of development, particularly housing. Local governments working with SEMCOG are addressing some of the economic development challenges posed by this forecast through a number of interrelated strategies. As this graphic illustrates, we are addressing the broad range of issues of people and talent, things related to the business climate, and community assets. I think if you look at some of the items listed in this graphic, you will see there is plenty to do, and there's a role for each and every one of us in the process. I conclude the presentation with a small commercial for SEMCOG, and particularly our data. Here's a website. Here's a look at our website, which is our community profiles, and I've got St. Clair County on the slide. Our community profiles provide a myriad of data that I've only touched on today. The same information is available both countywide as well as for each community in the region. So if any of you would like to look at the detail at a smaller geographic level or spend a little bit more time looking at that, I encourage you to visit our website, and the address is on the screen. With that, I want to thank you, and I want to let you know how much I appreciate being able to present this information to you. I hope it will give you some background as you think about your plans for the years ahead.
Thank you, Kathleen. Now we'll open the floor up to questions and answers. Bill, if you want to come on back up here. Marty Dorn is in the audience. He's back there with a microphone, a handheld microphone. So if you have any questions, just raise your hand. Don't be timid. Don't be shy. Very nice people up here.
Great.
Wow. Becky Smith?
I'm from the healthcare industry, so interesting to see that you're anticipating that there's some growth in those types of jobs, and yet we're looking at population health and with the Affordable Care Act and so forth to actually keep people out of the hospitals and so forth. And if we manage those chronic illnesses, that they won't need to be seen in settings. So can you elaborate a little bit more on how you're anticipating that growth to happen?
Well, I'm certainly not a healthcare expert, but there's a whole range of jobs in the healthcare, the growth in healthcare. Some of it will be caring for people that are older. I understand we're going to be living longer, so it's not all doctors and hospitals. It's the whole range of people in that field.
When you talk about population growth, I think is that it's based on kind of our indigenous population growth, but what role do you see immigration playing in increasing population in the state as well as in our region?
You know, actually, immigration is one of those issues that we've spent a lot of time looking at, and there's both in-migration from domestically as well as internationally, and I think we see one of the challenges is making it easier for international migration. I think that's found its way into some of our legislative priorities because we see that as critical. The other thing that we often point out when we're talking about immigration is that unlike many places in the country, international immigration to our region tends to be higher educated, tends to be people that are drawn by our industries, and so that we don't tend to have as many immigrants from like the southern states where they're low educated, low wage. Ours tend to be higher educated and higher wage earners. So certainly it's something that we think is important for the future.
Do we have any information we'd like to share from our any of our elected officials in the audience who'd like to comment on some of this information or share their perspectives? I got a big hook in the back, so we'll take care of it. Anyone? Wow, you guys are awesome. Thank you, Bill. So, wow, we're going to be out of here maybe a little early. I want to thank both Bill and Kathleen for their excellent presentations, so excellent that we had absolutely no questions from the gallery. Before we close out today's interesting event, I want to thank First Allied Security. Where is First Allied Security? The winner, I'm pleased to announce that First Allied Security won the Blue Water Chamber contest for recruiting new members. So, the winner of the contest was Richard Schweihofer for First Allied. He was successful in getting Jim Sean of the St. Clair Realty, to become a member. Please stand up, Richard and Jim, and thank you for your support. Obviously, that's what the Blue Water Chamber is all about, is encouraging and growing business within St. Clair County. So again, I thank you for coming in today. Wonderful opportunity to share some great ideas. I want to again thank our presentation sponsors, AT&T and Hampton Inn. I want to thank the event co-sponsors, BMJ, Fifth Third Bank, DTE Energy, St. Joseph Mercy Hospital, and the Times-Herald. I think we all owe a round of applause to Amy Lutz and her staff. Amy kind of adopted, if you will, the work of Vicki Fournier after Vicki left a few weeks ago and was able to pull off this incredible event today. So, Amy, I don't know where you are, but good job. And Danielle, I don't know where you are, but thank you as well. And if the members of the Public Affairs Committee could stand or wave or something, and let's recognize them for working on this event on your behalf. That's it. Thank you very much. If you'd like to stay and mingle, please do. I'm sure you have a lot of other questions, and we have some great booths out there.